Hello, my friends on YouTube. Today is Sunday, the 11th of June 2023. Today's video is the distortion of Qur'an, as we need distortion. Okay, today's video is because one of the comment came from a subscriber by name Skull Super, and he asked if I can speak about a Quranic verse. When I thought about it, actually it opened so many things, so bear with me and try to connect things together. Before I start, something happened on the news. One of the very VIP Islamic people from the Muslim Brotherhood who used to speak strongly with vigor and strength in 2011 when the president of Egypt at this time was President Mubarak, and he wanted him to leave and they wanted to install an Islamic president. He came out recently in less than a week, and he is speaking softly as he is a defeated man. And I don't know exactly what is happening. This happened right after the president of Turkey claimed that he won the re-election of Turkey. And we know the president of Turkey, Recep Tayyip Erdogan, that he is one of the Muslim Brotherhood, and in the teaching of Islam, that is his brother, and they were supporting each other practically. But once he won the election, he left him out in the open. And this man, he's an Egyptian clerk. I think he received 3 death sentences in Egypt, and he escaped from Egypt. He lived for a while in Qatar, then Qatar kicked him out. He lived in London for a while, he came to America for a while, and now he settled in Turkey because Turkey is a safe haven for him and for many of the Muslim Brotherhood who fled after the Islamic system collapsed. And that it's just, I'm talking about that because it makes me think, if you betray your brother at the time of difficulty to a point that you can sense it in his voice that he is desperate, because it looks to me that he may either be hand out to the Egyptian authority and then he will be executed, or probably the secret police in Turkey will get rid of him. Something will happen, and that's why his voice is a defeated voice, is not the voice that we used to hear him with vigor and strength and authority. This is gone. Anyway, I'm not really upset that what they did to humanity requires payment, and probably the time has come. Okay, today's video about this Quranic verse. I'm going to put everything in the description box. It's chapter 38, verse 5, and practically it says, the founder of Islam was telling the Arabs, I won't make all the gods in Mecca into one singular God. And who wants so many gods really? If there is one God, it's one God. But why was Muhammad saying that? It's not because he believed really there is one God. No. There is a Quranic verse, and it is written in chapter 9, verse 111. it speaks that Muhammad was a merchant. Because of he was a merchant, his speech always speaking as a merchant. So he was telling his people, God purchased of the believers their soul. The word used is like the mind, heart, spirit, everything. He bought of the believers. But he didn't pay you money, because you are the one who is actually giving your money. But he will give you heaven in exchange, and you will have boys, virgins, endless meat, vegetables, fruits, things that you don't see in the desert. And this is a good trade. I'm going to put that verse in the description box. Read it and try to find out the sense, what it means, because you may have to read all the translation to form your own feeling, because translation oftentimes is not honest. So he wanted to use his expertise as a merchant to make all gods into one God. And that is not really to make one God. He had a vision. When you read the explanation, he was telling these wealthy merchants, we unite under one single God. And then once we unite, we form an army. Why? We can go to Persia, invade them, loot the wealth, take the women, take the booties, and make them pay us tribute, jizya. We go to Rome, defeat them, and have them take the beautiful young blonde girls to enjoy, loot the wealth, and have them pay jizya to us. That was, he actually had a vision. The regular merchant, even though they were very, very wealthy, but their vision is to continue in the successful path that we built, our ancestor or our parents and grandparents built, and we're building on it and continue to get, to become wealthy people and have whatever we want. That was their vision. But he had a vision to transcend all that. He wanted to be an emperor. He wanted to rule the world. And if they go with him, then they will have a very high position and they will get more. That was the vision of the founder of Islam. By making all gods into one God. Now, when I thought of that, it came to me a story. I'm going to speak about it. It's called the story of Garanik. I'm going to put that in the description box. I don't know if it might be also in English. Anyway, this story, it speaks of a Quranic verse. That's why I called this video Distortion of Qur'an. The Prophet, the founder of Islam, was praying in Mecca, and at this time there were non-believers surrounding him, and these non-believers, they were very, very wealthy merchants in Arabia, and they were not happy with what he is doing, that he wants to make them believe in one God, and they had idols that they believe in, and he actually insulted these idols. So they didn't like that very much. And believe it or not, because there was a lot of Christian and Jewish influence in Arabia, that's my own understanding, my own feeling. This what happened, that because of the Jewish Christian influence in Arabia, the people, the idol worshipper, found out that the Jews and the Christian, they get closer to God when they pray. Like the Jewish people, when they pray, they end their prayer, they say, in the name of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So they feel they need a medium, that the Jewish person, man or woman, cannot go directly to God. So he goes to God through Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob as the mediators. And Christianity, a Christian person, when he prays, he doesn't pray just talk to God like that. When he ends he or she end the prayer, they would say, in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ. So Jesus is a medium for the Christian. So the idol worshipper kind of like adopted that kind of attitude. So they knew of the existence of one single God. However, they needed a mediator. And to them, these idols around Kaaba, there were 360 of them. It's like every 1 degree of the circle had one idol. I don't know if that was intentional or not. And each group of people had one idol. When they pray to God, the singular God, they will use this idol's name as a mediator. So the founder of Islam used to make fun of them, fun of their mediators, and he was telling them, I'm here to make one God. And probably he considered himself to be the mediator. That's what the Muslims do today, actually, when they pray. He is their mediator. He just replaced Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, as it is for the Jews, and replaced Jesus Christ as it is for the Christian. He put himself for the Muslim as the mediator to God. So these people, as wealthy merchant, well educated, they didn't like his message very much. They didn't like that twisting of the arm. Sensing that, he knew that he is in trouble. So he prayed with his believers. And as he was reading from one of his verses, Quranic verses, he added at the end, Allat, Al-Uzza, Manat, 3 goddess idols around Kaaba in Mecca. 3 idols. And when he mentioned these 3 idols, he reverenced them, and he said to please them is something desirable. We have to please these goddess. And when he ended his prayer, he bowed down, and it says in the story that the idol worshipper, because he praised their goddess or their idol, they bowed down to him, with him. They agreed with him and they bowed down. Once he got up, he thought of it, and he thought, that was a big mistake. I shot myself in the foot. I say there is only one God, but I'm praising these goddess or small gods. So the story is there. I'm going to put it in the description box. However, the Muslim leaders are so ashamed of it. So some people deny it completely. They say it didn't happen. That never happened. Why is it in the Sirah? Why is it in your books if it never happened? Why your books don't speak, let's say, of President Mubarak when he was removed? Because it wasn't happening at his time. But why is that in your Islamic books if it never happened? That's number one. Other people, they see they cannot deny, flat out deny it like that. So they say, oh yeah, it happened. However, it was the devil who imitated the sound of Jibreel, the angel. And the Prophet, may the blessing of Allah be upon him, he thought this was Jibreel, the angel, who always brought him the revelation. So he recited whatever that voice said, because it was very much like this, the voice of Jibreel, the angel. So after he finished, he kind of woke up from that, and he said, no, that was the devil tricked me. And when you take that explanation, okay, what else did he trick you? It opens a door nobody can close. Where else in the Quran did he trick you? Do the Muslim people know? Maybe the whole Quran. How do you know that if it's not all from the devil? And he only recognized this part. Nobody knows. So it opens a door of question that it will not end. And that's why the people who say it never happened, they kind of like shut this door and they pretend it never happened. However, something explained to us that it did happen, and it's also in the Quran, and that's in the chapter called Hajj, and the verse, I'm going to put it in the description box, and it speaks of that incident. If it never happened, why God, or per se, God is commenting on it? And what this verse says, none of the messengers or the prophets of Allah before you wished for something. I'm giving you my own translation of that verse. Wished for something, but Satan managed to invade this wish and put his own feeling and thought and desire in that wish. So you are not an exception. The devil deceived the messengers and the prophets before you, exactly like what happened with you. So don't worry. And Allah will abrogate the bad things and keep the good things. So Allah abrogated this. Allah himself admits that this happened. So I don't care about what these preachers say. So there is another story to tell us that actually Quran is cut and paste, whatever comes, everything goes. And that is a story about the second caliphate. His name was Omar. And he speaks of hadith of stoning. And he says in that hadith, I'm going to put it in the description box, in his hadith he says that the Prophet of Allah stoned those who committed adultery and we stoned with him. And the verse of Quran that speaks of that was abrogated. And I'm tempted, Omar speaks, I'm tempted to put it back in Quran, because in the future, when people ask, where is that verse? Then they may think that people played with the word of God, the word of Allah. They ask, where is that verse? And that verse, they say, it's abrogated. But you can use it, until now the Muslim can use its effect. That means if they find an adulterer and an adulteress, they can actually stone them to death. Why? Because it came as a Quranic verse, even though it does not exist in Quran. Omar says you can apply. Until now people apply. I spoke about the death of Soraya, the Iranian lady who was framed and stoned to death, and that's a true story. Because even though the Quran does not have any verse now written, it says stone them like that. Because it was abrogated. And therefore, yes, it's abrogated, but you can use the law, use it as a law in today's society. So, where is that verse? Abrogated. It was taken off. And the situation about the idols around Mecca, around Kaaba, in Mecca, it was taken off. Why? Because it was of the devil. So if you are wondering about making all the gods into one god, there's worse, but it's not in the book. So I thank Skull Super for this comment, because it reminded me of these few stories. Thank you very much, and I hope we hear from you.